We call it kabagoti, sapping stone. The first thing we do before doing any work, we have to go in the bush and brush around. There we will come with that sapping stone and place it there. By the sapping stone, then we have a water there that we put it on the stone while we are sapping our life. Sapping stone, when you are tired, you have brush around, then you're tired, you come to sapping stone. It will give you more strength to work more than what you have did before. And so OVP is. The past NGOs, they will not even call the members in the clan. They just come in and started constructing things without the consent of the people. All what they did is nothing again. When OVP came in Bika, by then I was an ordinary community member. Before the time of OVP, I was not able to keep money for myself. I fight my wife. I will just say, just get out for me. Get out here, get out here. I drove everybody off.
Yeah, Tonya Baba here. Tag amundi meta bagme all the matter you here. Ayana hi. CAGC akem wa VOVP. Mugwilo e bagimi na mu hen batata to take back. Bagima wi.
They call a meeting. The whole community come together. The community present 12 people to OVP to train them. And I was one of the members. They directed the community member how to vote. In the designing process, we have to first introduce the problem we are talking about. People are always defecating around the house where people are dwelling. The flies around will come and eat that defecation so that they will go and rest on the food. There you will get diarrhea and cholera. In the designing, we the community design it for us. Children directed us and they said, if we have septic tank, so this also can prevent the odor. The OVP provided the materials from the shop, and we the community members provided the local materials. We are built by ourselves.
When I told you where to do take one up for my hand, I am happy. I go to Colilla Gaga Yavio.
50 don't be anya ana kegwele ke nyale ile groma ga go kopie nya go ne lo mo go moleje ele groma
We come along.
Community feel its ownership because they know that all what they are doing for ourselves. It's for us. OVP come in the community. They will give you ideas. They will impact many ideas in you. And we call them a sapping stone. OVP sapping our brain. And we will become a new person again. So OVP is.
Hi, I'm Sasha Nicole, and this is Jill Lalonde, the Executive Director of One Village Partners. Today, Jill. Hi. Today, Jill will share with us about the work that One Village Partners is doing in Sierra Leone to empower local leaders to tackle issues that communities have identified as a priority. One Village Partners operates under the philosophy that sustainable and long-lasting change can only be achieved when communities lead their own transformations. I'm sure you will find the impacts of this work to be very inspiring. So thank you for joining us, Jill.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Tell us a little bit about the programs that are offered at One Village Partners.
Great, thanks. So One Village Partners builds the capacity of rural communities to lead their own development. And we have 3 interconnected programs that together build toward inclusive leadership, social cohesion, gender equity, and resilience to improve well-being for everybody in the communities. And so these 3 programs, the first is the Community Action Program. And in that program, we train volunteer leaders as change agents so they can mobilize their communities effectively. And through that process, this group of leaders works with their villages to identify their most pressing problems and then design and implement projects that address these problems.
Wow. Oh, sorry.
That's okay, that's okay. Our second program is the Nurturing Opportunities for Women program. And this program teaches participants basic financial principles, planning, decision-making, and business skills so that they can manage their finances through the year to reach their goals. And then our final program is our newest program called LEAD. And the purpose of the LEAD program is to create a platform to amplify community-led leadership. So this project allows rural leaders to enhance their leadership skills, connect with one another, and execute collaborative development projects by submitting grant applications to One Village Partners. And that was developed because communities asked us to help provide them with experience in grant writing and grant management.
Interesting. That's awesome. And why is it that community-led is so important in your work?
I mean, there are a lot of reasons, but I mean, I think first and foremost, the experience of those who are living in the region where we want to make an impact is the best informed. They are best informed about their own day-to-day challenges and opportunities. And so we really see our role as being a partner to them and being able to support them in the vision that they see for a thriving rural community and for their own lives. And I mean, I think kind of secondary to that is just the sustainability of it. I mean, coming in true partnership and working in collaboration with local communities so that they can really own the project and the results is going to result in more sustainable projects. And I think finally, just like doing development with dignity, like nobody wants to be told what to do. And I feel really strongly that our platform is a way that invites people in true partnership and does not overstep, we don't come in as the experts. We have something to offer through the partnership and communities do as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And then you have a program called the NOW program, if I understood that correctly. Okay.
Correct.
Why is that geared towards women and what makes that so important?
Well, it's pretty widely cited that women are a great investment. I think it's the World Bank that said that for every dollar invested in them, women will reinvest 90 cents of that in their families and communities. Yeah. So we know that getting money in the hands of women is a great thing for development. Yeah. And in Lalonde district where we work, we know that about 70% of women are employed, and it's mostly in agriculture. So one of the challenges we're really trying to address here is not necessarily a lack of access to income, which is another issue, but rather lack of control of income. And so to do that, we really, we work specifically with women on enhancing their skills, but then also working with their entire family, including their spouse or a male relative, so that they can utilize their skills. We've measured that less than half of married employed women in the district where we work can decide how their own cash earnings are used. Okay. And so when we include the male member participating in our trainings and learnings and making sure that they're involved so that they don't feel like they feel included as well, even if their wives are the ones that are going through the program, we see a measurable increase in women's decision-making power within their households. Mm-hmm. And then in the wider community, we see a measurable increase in women's participation in community activities and speaking up in meetings. So We work specifically through targeting women because it has a broader impact on development overall.
Got it. And can you say a little bit more, just a little more detail on what it meant by how they control that? Is that in terms of where money is allocated for the family, or what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. So being able to be a joint decision maker or a sole decision maker about where the household income is spent.
Got
And
it.
so women are primarily, I mean, in our NOW program, the first goal that most women have set, it's more than 50%. Their goal is to save money for their children's education. So we know that they're investing in productive ways and not in consumables.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it really is very empowering to have that at your fingertips, to be able to make those decisions and see a tangible result, like sending your child to school, for example. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's really neat. How, you've touched on this a little bit, but could you say more about how One Village Partners is different from a traditional humanitarian aid organization?
Well, there are, I think, a couple ways where we differentiate ourselves. I'd say one is the extent to which we're community-led. So, organizations can kind of fall anywhere on a spectrum of getting community input into what they're doing versus handing over full decision-making authority to the communities where they're working. And we really strive toward the latter of those. And we always are learning, and there's so much more that we have identified and want to do in this, and breaking down barriers so that communities are truly leading, not just in programs, which we've done a good job, I think, with that, but we're trying to really invest in how communities can influence and be a voice in our organizational strategy and the governance of our organization. So I'd say one of the ways we're different is the extent to which we're community-led and kind of pushing to be more community-led. And then I'd say secondly, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the community leadership piece, is just being really agile and localized. I mean, with COVID-19, that was, I think, a good example of, like, we have the trust, we have a network and the social cohesion and social capital in the communities where we're working. And we are able to quickly adapt and respond when there is a need for that. And so we were able to, I mean, we paused operations last year because there were lockdowns and we weren't able to move anyway. But then as soon as people were, it was only a couple months into the pandemic that people were able to get back to the office and who are implementing area and say, like, what do people need? Like, where are the gaps here? How are people staying safe? And we could quickly get in and provide learning, and especially information on, like, misinformation of COVID-19 and, like, combating that to more than 25,000 people. And we could do that relatively quickly just because we're nimble.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. And then, I mean, you're based here in the United States, but most of your staff, or the majority of your staff, is in Sierra Leone. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. How many are in Sierra Leone versus the US?
So we have 48 staff total, and 45 of those staff are in Sierra Leone.
Okay.
And then 43 out of those staff in Sierra Leone are all Sierra Leonean locals to the region where we're working and speaking the local language.
Okay. Wonderful. What is the local language?
Mende.
Okay. Excellent. All right. And then how does One Village Partners go about engaging or developing prospective partnerships with people in Sierra Leone?
So I can talk about partnerships on maybe a few different tiers. So for community partners specifically, a lot of time those are by request. And so when we first started working in Sierra Leone, it took a lot more kind of getting the word out about, like, here's how we work as partners, here's what we want to achieve. But then as we started doing more and more work and expanding out from our office, we got more requests from people. Our staff has said the Bush network is strong. Like, people in surrounding communities had heard about One Village Partners and they wanted to work with us as well. So we started going into communities by request, but a lot of it has also been operational. Like, what communities are we able to reach from our home base? So they're just the logistics of it as well. But we also explored expansion in really kind of broadened it for the entire country and did a bunch of research and some site visits, and ultimately opened up a new hub office in a town called Daru, which is about an hour and a half away from our headquarters office. And that was based on a lot of logistics questions, and then a lot of working with traditional leaders and elected leaders and community prospective partners on if they wanted the partnership, and making sure that there was a place that we had kind of strong partnership on both sides. So we opened that up just last year, and now are working a lot more on discussions to keep expanding from that hub.
Okay. Just curious, because I've never been to Sierra Leone. How easy is it to get around, or is there a good road system developed, or is it flat? Is it mountainous? In terms of...
It depends where you are.
Okay.
So Sierra Leone's a pretty small country, and I think around the size of South Carolina.
Okay.
I think, and about 6 million people. And so it's not very large. And so, but the drive from Freetown, the capital, and the international airport to the region where we work is about 7 hours. And I'd say like the first 6 of those are on paved roads. Okay. So there's a ton of investment that's been happening in infrastructure. Chinese companies are doing a lot of infrastructure building in Sierra Leone. Okay. But once you get out to the really rural areas, it's horrendous, in the rainy season especially. So just dirt roads that turn to mud, and cars getting stuck. So it really depends where you are, but the road network has vastly improved.
Okay. So having the 2 offices, does that help facilitate then, in terms of the reach, like you were saying, in terms of...
Yeah, exactly. So the office, we actually have 3 offices, because we have one in for administrative staff that's in a little bit of a larger town with better internet.
Okay.
But for our programs teams that are out in communities on a daily basis, yeah, exactly. Those offices are so they're in close enough proximity to the communities they're visiting that it's reasonable to travel on a daily basis.
Yeah, that makes really good sense. So if anyone listening wanted to support or get involved with your work, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, well, there are a few different ways. I would really encourage people to attend an online event. I think everybody's gotten a bit more savvy with what they're offering online post-COVID or during COVID. And so we've been hosting town hall events and also some fun engagements. We did a trivia event a few months back. So I'd encourage people to come to one of those, and we try to make them very accessible and relatively short, so people can just pop in and it doesn't take a whole lot of time. Yeah. Follow us on social media. We're on all the major media platforms, and tell others about our work by sharing posts on social media or sharing our emails, which you can sign up for on our website, and donate.
Okay, excellent. Sounds good. Well, we'll make sure that we put your information in the description below so everyone can find that very easily. What are some of the barriers that your community partners face towards improving their situation?
It's a big question. I mean, development is so complex, as you know, and our community partners really have to grapple with systemic and embedded challenges. And in Sierra Leone specifically, Sierra Leone was really central to the global slave trade from the 15th century until the mid-19th century. And then almost immediately following that, the country was colonized by the British, and they declared independence in 1961, which in the grand scheme of things isn't really that long ago. Yeah. Then from 1991 until about 2002, there was an incredibly brutal and violent civil war. And all of these events, I'd say, in combination have resulted in extreme poverty, lack of opportunities for individuals and their families to thrive, and systems and institutions that really perpetuate corruption and a gender hierarchy. So it's multiple levels. It's like it's hard to meet basic needs. It's hard to find opportunities and have opportunities. And then even within those opportunities, there are a lot of barriers and different challenges to navigate.
Okay.
So we know in our communities where we work, because they're choosing their priorities, every single community has chosen their first project to be in water, sanitation, and hygiene. And so we end up building with communities a lot of latrines for the outdoor toilets and a lot of wells for access to clean water. Yeah. And we've seen in these projects that there is immediately, pretty much as soon as the project is completed, a 70% or more reduction in diarrheal illness. So like some of these public health interventions are a very great return on investment, and communities know best that this is going to help with meeting their basic needs. Right. I'd also say another barrier when you think more about like the institutional level or like the quality of life as you get beyond basic needs in public health. The Sierra Leone has some of the highest maternal and child mortality rates in the world. And so women have a lifetime risk of dying in childbirth of 1 in 17, which is just abysmal. And life expectancy is 53 years. So, again, meeting basic needs is a huge challenge, and we're working through that a lot with our community action program. But the quality of life is even more complex in being able to really work in collaboration with institutions and institution building so people can access those opportunities.
Yeah. You're right. It is very complex. There's a lot of layers to development in every country. Every country has its own history, its own culture, infrastructure. There's so many variables, but it sounds like you're really attacking the crucial elements. I mean, starting with water and proper sanitation it sounds so simple to us in the US when we just go to our faucet, but if you don't have clean water, you're not going to get very far. You can't think about education or, economic development or things like that. So
yeah, exactly.
I commend you for taking that approach. And it's neat to hear that this is what the communities are saying first. First, we need water, then we'll take care of the rest. So that's neat. It sounds like they really have a good understanding of what they need. So
absolutely, they have the best understanding of what
they need. Absolutely. What are some challenges that the organization faces when trying to help with some of these issues?
Again, it's complex and there are many, but I'd say one of the biggest challenges that we have grappled with and are continuing to grapple with is how do we ensure we are not building a parallel system of leadership and governance where that would only, perhaps we would leave things worse off than when we started, right? And so figuring out the best and most effective ways to partner and work in collaboration with local government and institutions so that we're really building civil society and building engagement with local governing officials so that we're creating an integrated and strong system of leadership and accountability without creating a parallel system. And so it's, when we're working on community projects at a village level, there's much less like local government involvement. People are aware. We're working much more closely with traditional authorities. But as we're working now on the LEAD program and really trying to create these collaborative opportunities, so this platform for communities to engage with one another and work on regional solutions that are beyond the village level and can tackle problems that are pervasive across communities, working with the government becomes much more important. And this is what we're really building out. How do we really structure an advocacy piece around our work and create opportunities for constituents to interact with their elected representatives and create meaningful dialogue and create development projects together. So that's kind of the next phase of our programming to address that problem. But it's a hard one. It's really tricky.
I believe it. I really respect that engagement with the local government because I think sometimes NGOs come in with this hero mentality of we're going to fix it, we have the answers, but really in the end, you should make yourself less center stage. You should be, passing the keys, if you will, or passing the baton and letting them take the ownership of it to move forward in the future. And it sounds like that's what you're doing. So
we're trying. I mean, our goal is to work ourselves out of a job, right? But we also understand, like, a few years ago, we started we didn't start talking about, but we got a lot more serious about like, let's define exactly our exit strategy, right? We haven't been doing this for all that long. We've been implementing these programs since about 2015, but we knew that we really needed something concrete. And it has been a process because, we said one of our values is sustainability. We're not going to operate in perpetuity. That would be contrary to our values as an organization. But at the same time, needs evolve, and we weren't talking about just picking up and leaving. We were really talking about evolving our relationship so we're not operating in perpetuity, but we're also meeting the evolved and different needs of our community partners so we can support them. So that's why the LEAD program, in that program, we've stepped back quite a bit more. We're doing a lot less active facilitation and a lot more responding, creating a platform for communities to connect with one another. And the government engagement piece. So trying to, again, it's not an exit, it's kind of like a phasing out or a phasing back.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a healthy strategy, a good approach. How do you measure your impact or your long-term sustainability?
So this is like ever evolving as well. I mean, we do in individual communities, we do baseline and endline surveys. So we're doing kind of standard monitoring and evaluation. Communities also do a lot of monitoring and evaluation of their own projects. And so they're tracking the group of volunteers that's really like the project lead for each community is tracking like usage and tracking just making sure that everything's functioning properly, and then if it's not, they're the ones responsible for intervening in that. So we do kind of more traditional monitoring evaluation. Then we also do something called most significant change, which is a qualitative methodology that utilizes participant stories to inform us in participants' words of the intended and unintended outcomes of our work. So participants tell stories about the change that they've experienced from the engagement with One Village partners. And again, it's qualitative. You can do a little bit of like quantitative analysis on like words and headlines, but a lot of it is, you know, really drilling down to the individual level and people's stories. And then you go through a ranking exercise. So you're determining which story represents the most significant change. And so that's been a really great way for us to get more anecdotal evidence and feedback about what we're doing. But something we're now going to be rolling out is also the same measure that the Sierra Leonean government is using to track their progress against reducing poverty, which is a multidimensional poverty index. So we're making plans now to use a multidimensional index of, I think it'll be the official one, but to measure not just monetary poverty, but poverty across a variety of dimensions so that we can really interrogate our progress long-term.
Sure, yeah. It's a good idea to have that multi-faceted approach so that you're covering several bases. Yeah. Can you tell me about a person or an experience in your work that has touched you personally?
Yeah, well, I would like to tee up a video, and there's a man named Mohammed who's featured in the video, and Mohammed and his family are a true inspiration. I think that anyone watching will agree. So I hope that people will take the time to watch Mohammed tell his story.
Okay, yeah, let's check that out right now.
Mwanya ni vu mo go mo jepe yare. Mwame akali do bojuma. Ta vu ayahi ta vu gepe bo enafa. So ka tami ka je na wele ana bojo na sekwe avoid it. Program je anya ga han da gboto nya gbelewo. Na ga ka ha tami aji. Mwaye hanjo so mwaye majia sina kroma na fi moye pefa tamia kologo nyalege na sem ko tikabi ganege spoon de mi obokuma ke water pero okay ejina kaji tabu ototo na apela tagagala so tabu na jepe abala vuna nyaga pada nyebe gaila ga pada.
No, I was not a leader before. If you are a leader, you need to be cool and a person that is well acceptable. You will not be a defier. She knows that difference very well. All the time now, I keep communing with my wife. She is advising me, and I'm seeing that the advising is true. And we have stopped that fighting. Even quarrel, no more. Then, I'm not supporting my children, my 3 children, and they are so clever. Seta is the first daughter, Hawa the second daughter, and Mata is the last. All the time she is spelling, writing on the ground, making drawing. I feel life-free. I'm very proud of this community. They are working together, put money, put all their resources together, they are not getting the profit. I wanted to go to other villages. So the knowledge that OVP have impacted in me, I want also that knowledge to be impacted to the others community. I am now a change agent, me, my wife, and my children.
Wow, Jill, thank you for sharing that. That was really inspiring, especially, I mean, that moment with his daughters, that was really very moving. So I can see why that would be so important to you. So thank you for suggesting that.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, I wanted to circle back because I think there was more that you wanted to share with us that we didn't get a chance to dig into in terms of our impact.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I had talked a little bit about how we measure our impact, but I'd love to share some kind of statistics that we have gathered recently for those who are like me and pretty quantitatively minded and want to know, like, what are you actually measuring? What actually changes?
Yeah.
So some of the numbers that really excite me are that 70% of community members where we work, both men and women, have stated that husbands do not have the right to end his wife's education. And 42% of speakers at community meetings are women, up from 20% at baseline. So we're almost 50-50. So it's almost like gender equal at community meetings. So that's really exciting, the gender equity piece. On social cohesion, which is another one of our outcomes, 98% of community members say that there is a shared vision of progress in their community. So really having a shared idea of what it will mean to thrive and how they might get there. For inclusive leadership, our third outcome, 82% of community members feel that power is shared in community decisions, and 44% of One Village Partners volunteers are actually gaining former leadership positions in their community as a result of their interaction as volunteers on our projects. Yeah. So they're working their way into more official channels in their volunteer engagements. Yeah. And for resilience, which is our fourth and final outcome that we roll our measurements into, 68% of households were able to recover from economic shocks, and 95% of projects are sustained by communities after we're done with implementation.
Yeah. Oh, those are great numbers. Thank you for sharing that. That's really awesome.
Letting me share those.
Yeah. In your work doing this, what have you learned either, individually or as an organization from your experience?
So much. I think like as an organization, we can always do better, right? Like we get really excited about our work and the impact and our vision for the future, all of these things, but like we always need to interrogate our assumptions and learn and grow so that we can deliver more for our partners. We can always be more community-led, more inclusive. And so I think one of the things we've learned as an organization and I've learned as an individual is just to continue really diving in deeply to those questions and to not settle and to not, we can celebrate, we can get excited about progress or about some accomplishments, but we can't lose sight of continuing to learn and continuing to grow and question ourselves because things always change and there's always a way for us to improve.
Yeah, absolutely. Most definitely. What is your vision for the future of One Village Partners?
Yeah, well, that's another big question, but individuals in Sierra Leone should have the ability to live healthy and fulfilling lives. And so that means, as we were talking about earlier, like meeting basic needs through our community action program. So that's a piece of it. And also improving quality of life, which is the next level up from that, which we're really addressing more pointedly through our LEAD program. So I envision a future where OVP's formal partnership is phased out, but where we've really helped to strengthen civil society and institutions so people continue their progress without our direct involvement. Mm-hmm. And we need to continue to reassess and evolve our partnership to best meet the needs of partner communities and support them on their development journeys, and not operate in perpetuity. So I see us kind of like catalyzing this change for the future that will perpetuate itself. Okay. And that communities will thrive without our support.
Right. Yeah, I like that idea of catalyzation where it's really you kind of get the ball rolling and then it snowballs after your intervention. So that's awesome. So then one more time, for anyone listening who would like to support your work, what would be the best way for them to do that?
So lots of ways. Again, attend a virtual event or town hall or trivia. We list those on our website regularly, and we also send out notifications to those who are signed up for our emails. So register, sign up for those on our website. Share our work and posts on social media. Tell others about what we're doing by sharing social media or by sharing emails. And please donate. I mean, we have big goals for not only 2021, but for the future, to impact more lives and to impact lives in a deeper way and more meaningful way. So I hope people will consider supporting.
Yeah, and not only impacting lives for today, but for generations to come, because the work you're doing is investing in the communities as they are now, but they're going to take that learning and continue it and share it with their children and their children's children. So, you know, you're not just focusing on one day, you're making a lifelong impact. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Jill. I love the work that you're doing. I think that your mentality and engaging the communities and letting them make the decisions is really spot on in terms of development and helping them for the long term. So thank you so much for sharing a bit about your work and your goals for the future. And we appreciate your being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Sasha. It's really been a privilege.
Thank you, Jill. Here at Emanate International, it is our mission to promote nonprofits and social enterprises that equip their recipients to become independent, autonomous, thriving members of society. Indeed, One Village Partners is certainly doing great work to equip leaders for sustainable change in their communities. If you enjoyed our discussion today, please be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you will be in the know for future inspirational conversations with other leaders who are making great gains in improving our world. Thank you.